The government estimates that the changes will bring in about $220 million a year by 2022. For a reality check on these changes, let's bring in Dan Kelly, President and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Okay, Dan, great seeing you. You're calling this a lump of coal. You're not mincing your words. Why is this?
No, look, we're 2.5 weeks away from the implementation of these policies, and the minister just today announces them. That is deeply insulting to small and medium-sized firms. And while there's a little bit more clarity and a few more exemptions that supposedly will apply to small business owners, our big concern is that business owners have no time to implement this or make changes based on this in order to ensure that they're protected from the Canada Revenue Agency come January.
I see what you're saying here, but the minister was also clear in saying that this is a transition year, and by the end of next year is when these rules will really kick in. So businesses do have that year buffer period.
Well, even that's not clear. The rules, it's clearly stated that they do apply as of January 1st, 2018. Now, I think what the minister is saying that the tax bill or the tax filing won't be until 2019 because it's affecting calendar year 2018. But what do you do if you're a business owner and you typically pay dividends or salary to your employee on January 15th or on February 2nd? These are some of the practical questions that have yet to be answered by government. They're dropping this at the absolute busiest time of the year for thousands of business in retail and the service sector. Tax professionals are just today getting this information and yet are expected to be able to give advice to clients to potentially make some changes before January 1st. That's just not going to happen.
What did they get right here?
Well, look, they did clarify on the positive side that it appears that retired business owners, those that are older than 65 and perhaps exiting their business, that they're going to be able to share income with their spouse, perhaps in their business, in the same way a pension earner can do that, can split their pension income with their spouse. That, if the details are correct, would be good news for a bunch of business owners that are on the exit ramp. But I got to tell you, the big fear of us is, even though they provided some additional clarity, what they refer to as bright line tests that would exempt business owners from having to go through the reasonableness test, even to determine whether you qualify for these exemptions is going to be a process. And ultimately, I believe that a few years from now, there's going to be all sorts of businesses caught by the CRA, at least pulled into audit. The government is saying 3% potentially affected. We have 70% of small businesses that are members of CFIB, our 109,000 members, that have family members working in their business. Most of them will not have a clue as to whether or not they're going to be affected by this, and yet they're expected to implement this at the busiest time in a few weeks from now.
You also had another concern. You wrote that you remain concerned that the new income sprinkling provisions won't take into account many of the formal and informal ways family members participate in the business. What do you mean by that?
Well, look, there are all sorts of flavors and types of businesses that are out there, roles that business owners play. They're putting in place a number of tests related to the amount of money that you have in the business or the amount of hours that you spend in the business. But goodness, I've talked to so many business owners that have a spouse that operates, helps out perhaps when the lead business owner is not there. How the CRA is going to determine in those scenarios whether or not the amount of input is so-called reasonable is beyond me at this time. This is going to affect dividends that business owners are sharing for the very first time. That affects the ownership structures of the business. So there is a lot of murky water that we're wading into. For goodness sakes, the Chief Justice and the former Chief Justice of the Tax Court of Canada have been quoted as saying that these changes are going to lead to a clogging up of the tax courts of Canada and the Canada Revenue Agency. I believe that we're in at least a decade of murky waters before business owners are going to have a straight answer as to what they're going to have to do.
All right. Dan Kelly from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Dan, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Anytime.